What do you get when you take the monster boyfriend concept, make the guy hot, but also make him a bigger jackass than the real monster boyfriends, completely ruining the Beauty and the Beast concept? You get the Beast within. No, not that one. Not that one either. Huh. There's the right one that I am supposed to be talking about. We began our story with I would like the audience to ignore the fact that the female lead stole my name. Anyways, Ray Lisbon and her brother Hayes are taking a carriage to this mansion tucked away deeply in a forest to visit and hopefully start a business with an old friend of their grandfather's. With their father's death, mother health deteriorating, and being unwelcome in their grandparents' home, and the debt from it all of this, both the siblings took a letter written to their grandfather as a means of forming a connection to this man to find help for their troubles. I think. I'm not exactly sure with how it's written, but this is my best summary of the why. Anywho, the whole time that Ray and Hayes stay in the mansion, Hayes has a terrible time complaining and being all entitled, all the while Ray notices that Claudine Claudine? Ew. Claudine seems to be staring at her rather than listening to the business deal her brother is trying to propose. Claudine seems to seek Ray out to spend, you know, his time with her for things, but they also just spend time just being with each other. All the while, Hayes keeps getting more frustrated with everything and everyone. This is when we see Ray returning a book that she borrowed from Claudine, who sees him doing something while thinking of her. They eventually go do the do, and this is the start of Claudine's obsession with Ray. And all the while the two become closer, Hay seems to phase out more and more into the background, him complaining more about the servants not accommodating to his every wishes, and his feeling the need to be superior to his sister. When Hayes eventually becomes frightened of the strange goings on in the mansion, he tries to escape it with Ray. When she refuses, he attempts to leave without her, but he fails in his escape and gets cursed like all the other servants with animalistic facial features. He also gets an extra curse placed on him that makes him look completely different. So Ray doesn't recognize him at all. Now let's take a few steps back into explaining why in the hell everything seems to be happening and how Claudin became the yandere that he is in the story, and how the Lisbon siblings became victims of this haunted mansion. We learn that in the past, Claudin's parents died, and he was then raised by his wizard godfather. Apparently, Claudin was always a special child, and it seems like his specialness becomes more pronounced the more he learns magic from his wizard godfather, all because he is looking to attain immortality. And it seems as hubris came crashing all down on him like a ton of bricks dragging him at the bottom of the sea. It seems to me that the webcomic implies that Claudin has taken steps into maybe murdering his wizard godfather. Feeling betrayed or just wanting to throw irony onto Claudin, his wizard godfather curses Claudin to have the immortality he wishes, but he is also basically magically never able to leave the estate and forever. Um, yeah. Anywho, this seems to be why Claudette also finds the need to curse everyone else. Maybe so they don't leave him, so he could be forever alone, isolated in the mansion in the middle of the forest, or maybe just to spread pain to others because he's being a temperamental child something. So, how does any of this have to do with the Lisbon siblings? Well, one day, their grandfather comes to visit Claudette, Elliot Wester, coming to the mansion to get out of the rain one fateful day. Claudin, with his psychic powers I guess he has, knows that Elliot's wife is both pregnant with a daughter and also sick. He tries to strike a deal with Elliot. Claudin promises that he will help Elliot's wife with her sickness, but in exchange, he wants Elliot's daughter when she becomes of age. And it seems like Elliot might have forgotten to send his daughter to Claudin because their family became cursed with misfortunes, which passed down to their grandchildren. This is how Hayes and Ray came to find the mansion. Claudin gets what he feels is owed to him, and he will do whatever it takes to keep what is his, no matter what. Starting with talking about the art, it is a little rough in the first few chapters with body proportions and facial features being off from one scene to the next, but it eventually and quickly becomes forgettable after 10 chapters. So the art is fine. It works for the story I think it's trying to tell very much, I think. There are many scenes where everything is colored and shaded to look like a horror story, reminding me of another webcomic like How About a Cosmic Horror, which is also another smut title with a yandere character lead on Manta. We have our male lead who is the main focus of the dramatic colors and shade panels to the point where when I first read the story over a year ago, I honestly thought this was a horror title warning about the obsessional love, especially after Ray grew up in an abusive home, which continues to the present. Hell, I even once worked on my own inversion of a Cinderella story where the female lead becomes extremely attached to a handsome rich guy who promises to save her from her abusive family home to sadly become the abuser in the second half. So, needless to say, this story rubbed me the wrong way when I first read it and after finishing it and reading it and rereading it again for this review. Though I mentioned the story I once worked on was an inversion of a Cinderella story, The Beast Within actually has story beats from a well known fairy tale, Beauty and the Beast. These are some of the elements that I've noticed is similar to other well known versions of Beauty and the Beast stories. The family makes a deal with the Beast, kind of breaks it, but the female shows up anyways, not for the same reason, but eventually does. The Beast character isn't always nice to the male family members, but he is completely devoted to the female in the story. The Beast character has a curse on him. Somehow, the female lead being there is what helps break the curse. And the servants of the house, mansion, or castle is also cursed with a change of appearance. The biggest difference between traditional animal bride folk and fairy tale and this story is that there isn't any physical transformative redemption that is kind of the staple. Depending on how you might feel about the similarities and the changes with other animal bride and Beauty and the Beast stories, this story seems to want to tell it with a male yandere. I don't love this trope. It always seemed odd to me that some women fantasize about a man who would go to such length to get and keep the female lead all to themselves, especially if it means hurting other people. So, because of that, I have taken to asking the internet and users of fans who are into this trope why they like it. The most common response I had was that it's nice to have someone who is obsessively devoted to you and you alone. This intensity can be thrilling to some who loves the dramatic chaos in stories, the unpredictability that is a roller coaster that you can't look away from. It is a way to explore these kinds of relationships in the settings that the reader chooses to be part of, possibly even cathartic to some. Some have even expressed how they can never be attracted to this kind of person in real life, but feel safe enough to emotionally explore this kind of character within a story. I guess that somewhat makes sense. I love fantasy and historical stories, but I doubt that I would like to live in the Middle Ages. That time period is pretty much sexist and classist. Medicines were leeches and unicorn horn. You would have to deal with having goblins, dragons, orcs, and fae, and others, and that is assuming that they aren't the intelligent ones, but the more animalistic, fantastical creatures. Though not for the same reasons as to why fans of Yandere enjoy these kind of characters, I also understand that what some find cathartic is different than what I would find cathartic. All in all, this story feels like a horror to some, but to others, it is a thrilling ride with an extremely devoted romantic partner. This has a different angle at telling a Beauty Beast story, which is always welcoming to those who love to compare adaptations. The art is a bit rough in the first couple chapters, but it gets more consistent and very vivid depending on the right version you choose to read. Somewhat spoileristic, but this story does have some storytelling hiccups, especially later on when it seems to forget either or add details and or just, drops them altogether. I don't know if that is an adaptation problem or a translation one, but it does exist and it is something to think about once you hit the 5-year time jump, which is in the last 20-ish chapters. And of course, this story might be a trigger for some and not others, but that is something to keep in mind for those who are non thrill seekers. I am personally hoping that I won't have to read the story again and maybe look at something not so scary or serious. Maybe I should go back to the Fluffy Duke as some kind of palate cleanser and laugh at the silliness. Both are smuts with a lot of them doing the do. And I wouldn't call either of these stories good, but go and enjoy the crazy world of these fantastical stories. You can check out The Beast Within and, hint, both available on Manta. Currently, Manta is having a special promotion with The Beast Within. You can read 8 chapters rather than just three, you know, normally as the preview. If you read them and decide that the story is in your future to read into its entirety, then when you purchase the chapters, you will get gems back. This promotion is good until March 28th, so there isn't a lot of time to be able to experience and take advantage of a deal that might not come again.